October 13th Personnel and Finance meeting to order, please. First order of business, we need to approve the agenda, unless there's any changes.
Move to approve the agenda.
Support. We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None? Thank you, Board. Next up, we have item 3, public comment. Is there any public comment? So we need public to have a comment. We'll move on to item 4, committee items. We have the minutes from September 8th, 2014. Any changes, or if not, we need a motion and support to approve those.
So moved.
Support. We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None? Thank you. Move on to item 4B, finance report for August. Welcome, Jim.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, committee members. We're reporting on the 8 months ended of August of 2014. The budget benchmark is 66.7, or 2/3 of the way through the fiscal year already. Year-to-date expenditures in the general fund in total is at 69.5%, a little above the benchmark. However, there's 2 items that I would point out. One is that the August financials, as always, include the third quarter transfers, which will distort the year-to-date somewhat. Also, with respect to payroll periods, we've incurred 18 out of 26 payrolls for the year through August 31st, which would be at 69.2%. So those 2 items would explain the fact that we are a little bit over the benchmark on the expenditure side. The good news is, if we're looking at the general fund graphs, is that we're pretty much on track based on historical trends, and on the revenue side, we are above the trends due to a better cash flow than we've had in previous years. So basically, that's all I wanted to report to you today, and be happy to answer any questions. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Chairman, these are budget adjustments for the general fund and for the airport fund. Next month, there'll be some additional adjustments with respect to parks and the golf course fund and others as needed. Basically, for the general fund, we are increasing expenditures by $249,900 and increase revenue of $101,000. And the remaining difference there is an increase to the use of fund balance of $147,360. And the reason this occurred, or the main reasons that occurred, is 2 things. One, because of our severe weather. If we remember last winter, I'd like to forget it, but if you remember last winter, we had additional overtime costs for snow removal, additional utility costs. So that's really coming an issue for the year. In addition to that, if you recall, each year we do a float adjustment where we reduce the salaries and fringes for the major departments, and that is to account for vacancies and turnover in the department. But if the actual vacancies and turnovers are different than what we anticipated, then we have to restore salaries and fringes to those departments. And those departments, again, are those with large salaries and fringes, such as the court system, prosecutor, and the sheriff's department. So the adjustments reflect that as an increase in those expenses. So, any questions?
Jim, I think you just maybe answered my question. There was a couple of them I'd noted. One was a jail adjustment of $188,000, and then $72,000 for the prosecutor. No, that was maybe $32,000 for the prosecutor, but that's what that is?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there was a $72,000 reduction in the prosecutor's retirement line. Why is that, or how could that be?
What can happen is if we budget And the personnel listing includes a long-term county employee, then they would be on defined benefit plan. As those individuals are replaced, then they're on the defined contribution plan. So the difference roughly is each defined development plan person, the pension cost is 32.8% of their salary, whereas defined contribution is 5%. So if the mix in the department, the mix of employees changes, then that would change the mix of the fringe benefits, including the pension cost.
Okay, and then the last two notes I had were in the medical examiner's office, where one of the increases was $55,000, which was a more than doubling of the medical examiner's fees.
Yes, there's been really an increase in the number of deaths in the county, an increase in the number of autopsies necessary, and so forth. Now, some of that, we get fees for that, so the fee revenue item is increased. But in general, again, those things are out of our control. There's been an increase of deaths in the county of all types, both due to natural causes and otherwise.
Yeah, the second one was the same budget, was actually the autopsy charges were up $42,000 from $140,000,
Yes.
but so the medical examiner fees that doubled, I guess I'm not sure what those fees are, but
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly.
Okay.
Joe, on that.
that's all the notes I had. Thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? Chairman Shotwell.
Thank you. We dealt with circuit court and a reduction in costs due to them going through and doing a floating layoff, and we actually had to remove people. Why are we going back and increasing their full-time wages $166,000?
Yeah, there's actually also a reduction. What the issue at the circuit court was, there was a misclassification of salaries. If you see, we're increasing by 166 full-time, but we're reducing part-time by 152,000. So yes, there's a net increase of 39,000, but the major problem in circuit court was the misclassification of salaries in the original budget as adopted.
I have another question, Mr. Chair. Under Board of Commissioners, why the $14,250 increase in our dues and publications?
Okay. Historically, we've actually been delinquent on the payment of the dues, the annual dues to MAC, and typically we would wait until the first of the year to pay those dues. Well, rather than being subjected to those notices at the direction of the administrator or controller's office, we decided to double up on those costs. So really the cost in the commissioner line item reflects 2 years of dues because we're catching up in those payments.
Any further questions? Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Next up, we're on to item D, the sheriff. This would be, oh, okay. Yep, okay, need a motion and support? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. This will be for the security camera system.
Good morning.
Morning.
We set out with a committee of people, Director Bustamante and Director Shealy, to develop a security camera system for the new 911 center at the Human Services Building. There is no surveillance or camera system up there. Because of critical infrastructure, we need to monitor who's coming out, especially after hours. If dispatchers need to allow people into the center, they need to obviously verify who they are, see, et cetera. Also off-site monitoring of the employees by our supervision staff. So there's a number of reasons why you need it, let alone that it's critical infrastructure. So we relied on Director Bustamante's intelligence, IT-related type of materials. He had several items that he wanted met within these bids, as did Director Shealy. Mainly, they wanted to make sure that they conformed with other county buildings, so should they at other times either expand the Human Services Building or develop other camera systems with other buildings. They didn't want perhaps a proprietary system relying out there. So we went through a number of bids. We had 3 bidders, and these all met the requirements and some of the capabilities that the sheriff's office wanted, but also, most importantly, the IT department and the facilities department. We had some actually very relatively minor needs and desires compared to some of the things that they wanted to make the systems uniform. We came back with 3 bids, Comtronics Safety Systems and a company called Vidcom Solutions. We went through the various bids, and Vidcom was selected not only as the lowest bid, but they also have a history of installing these type of systems at critical infrastructure sites, state of Michigan and other places. There is one thing I want to clarify in here. I have a note in there that IT can leverage additional savings by purchasing their own computer equipment through their own vendors, which IT can receive a better cost. These bid prices reflect a universal bid, so you're comparing bids to bid. You're not, we didn't take servers out of one and not the other. These 3 bids would be each of those vendors supplying their own servers. So whatever bid that we went with, hopefully Vidcom, we would reduce that by a certain amount with IT buying our own IT-related equipment that these vendors were aware of, or at least Vidcom was aware of. We can leverage better prices on those, and that was at the direction of Director Bustamante. So based on Vidcom's performance and also the low bid and actually the functionality of the system, we elected to go with them, should you see fit to approve that.
Is the IT department aware that they need to possibly look at this, and they were
Yes.
part of it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hallwell?
Just one question. Under Sheriff, where's Vidcom out of, if you know?
Lansing, Michigan, mid-Michigan area. I don't know if it's Lansing or Okemos.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, none? Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, next up we have facilities. Welcome, Rick. First off, I'd like to state that one of the vendors that has put in a price quote for the county refuse removal and recycle systems is a company owned by myself, Modern Waste, and part owner and president. I'd like the records to reflect with board approval that I can abstain from this vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Go ahead, Rick.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members. As we always are looking at ways to save money, when Northwest Services sold out to Granger Waste Services of Lansing, Michigan, we went out to get quotes on refuse service. In doing so, we found we could save $4,900 over what we're currently paying and still maintain the same level of services. So that's what you have before you.
Discussion?
Just one question. I think I had brought it up earlier. Rick, it notes in here in the document that under B with the current situation, the scope of quotes was expanded beyond the buildings. We managed to include parks, fair, sheriff, airport, JC, along with the city of Jackson. This is nothing for the city of Jackson that we're approving, no services to them. That's something totally separate.
That was totally separate. We just did economy of scale, combined both of them. The city's already approved this, sometime back in the late summer.
Okay.
Move to approve. Discussion?
Low bidder, I assume.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and full support. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Rick. Next up, item F, landfill operator position. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. As discussed at the Friday study session, we're asking to increase the facilities department by 1 FTE to create the landfill operator position. And if anyone has any questions regarding that, I'll gladly do my best to answer them.
Commissioner Hallwell.
And just to clarify, Rick, if we approve this, you'll be eliminating the casual or part-time hours, then, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I'd so move the request.
Okay, we have a motion and support. No further discussion, I guess. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? None? Thank you, Rick.
Sir?
One more item, item G. This would be Phase 3 of the roof replacement at the Human Services Building.
With the Human Services Building, we have been phasing roof replacement there for, the past 6 or 7 years, and this is Phase 3 of it. We were not able to get to it last year, so we rolled that funding over into this year's capital improvement amount, and we're just going to replace what would have been Phase 3 from last year and Phase 4 from this year just into a Phase 3.
Commissioner Elwell.
Rick, when was the last time any roof was replaced there, any section of it? And was it the same company that's the low bid this time or not?
McDonald has specifically been the low bid. Our first phase was over the boiler room. That was 2007, I believe. And then our second phase was over the Department on Aging's kitchen area. And I believe that was 2008 or 2009, one of those.
And those were both McDonald, you said?
Those are both McDonald.
Yeah, my only concern would be if we're doing it section by section, if we end up with two different contractors, if we end up with a problem somewhere, as you'd probably have.
Our specifications are extremely consistent from one project to the next. We're just using a set of bid specs just to prevent that.
I'd move we allow the low bid.
Rick, you mentioned Phase 3 moved into Phase 4, which I understand that. Is there other phases beyond that?
Right. I do want to replace the entire roof system there over the next 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a motion on the floor, motion and support. All in favor of passing this, moving on to the full board, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Aye. Phil, just one more question. Are we going to have to do a budget adjustment then for the additional amount or not? Because you had part of it budgeted and part not.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, that was something that our finance director had found the funding for that. And I guess I'd ask Administrator Overton if that's something we...
Question would be, Jim, did we carry this over, did we encumber the funds from last year?
It would require a budget adjustment.
So if they weren't encumbered, it would require an adjustment.
And technically, it's in contingency right now, so we have to just move it.
So, but we routinely do budget adjustments, so.
We need to do one right now?
No, we don't
Okay.
have to do it just yet.
Well,
You can do it, you can approve motions that way, but it's just, because I've done motions like where you approve the thing and the necessary budget adjustment, but we do them routinely here, so I think the next month when he does the budget adjustments, it should be fine too.
well, it did indicate that we're $11,000 short, I
Right.
believe, and it did indicate where the funds were coming from.
Makes sense to do it now, in my opinion. If you know you're short, you know where it's coming from, but whatever.
Out of 245.
Yeah, I mean, they know where the funds are coming from. It's just, like I say, it's just not been the practice, but it either way is perfectly fine and legal.
Wait and follow procedure or normal protocol? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the Health Department. Welcome, Mr. Thune.
Good
We have a
afternoon,
request
Commissioners.
here for a first reading of a change of fee schedule.
Yes, really modest fee adjustments, and they're primarily really from MDCH for their food service license, small incremental changes that are adjusted CPI on an annual basis by the State Health Department, and so we've incorporated those on the first page. On the second page is just some language cleanup for one of our fees for immunization administration in that first box, and then an adjustment of special clinics fees, which is really the hourly reimbursement rate either for nursing services or clerical services. Those fees now incorporate our indirect rate for the health department. So that's really what this consists of.
Thank you, Mr. Thune. Questions? Discussion?
Maybe just one. On the second page, you've got a jump of, well, $14, over $14 an hour for one and 6 for another, and that is just in the way we're allocating the expenses of it?
Well, I think it probably more has to do with the fact that we haven't adjusted these fees since 2006 or 2008, and it really is reflecting the, I guess what you might call the highest cost potential for utilizing services with the indirect built into it. So yes, it is a substantial increase there.
So the cost could be lower, but this is the worst-case scenario
Yes,
for charges?
yes.
Is that it? And if we were to not make, well, to go back, the first page is passing on MDCH fees, correct? So that's pretty much a no-brainer. But the second page, if we don't approve these, what happens?
Well, they're not a fee that is used very frequently, so we're not going to really, per se, lose a lot of revenue. It's just, we're trying to keep them accurate in the event that we do get requests for services. It's low volume.
Do you have any idea of total revenue on this second page, these fees?
I don't think, in talking with staff, that we've really had a request for external services involving nurses and clerks, at least in the past 12 months.
Okay, and then lastly, I think there's another attachment we had, maybe I got tied up looking at that yesterday, that had a larger breakdown of fees.
The attachment to
total
this
schedule.
is the actual fee schedule for all the fees in the health department.
And we're not changing any of those, it's
No,
only the ones on
these
the second
just-
document?
Just the ones in the staff report.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion?
Full board for the first reading.
Mr. Chairman, I think I want to vote no on one of these. Could we separate the two sets of, would it be difficult to separate the two sets of fees by way of a motion or not?
I don't think so. Separate? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if we can separate it into two different ones, page 1 and page 2, I guess. Page 1.
Support.
Do you have support? Okay, we have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
I'll move to administration.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support. Any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Thank you. Okay, as I said, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have item I, Administrator Controller, be for a countywide vending contract. Discussion, you want to explain it, Mike, or everybody set here?
I'll move the request.
We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Let me get back to my screen here. Okay, we have item J. This is the Administrator Controller's request. It would be the gift of small section of property at the Riverwalk Motel property to the state of Michigan. Discussion.
I'll move the request.
Motion and support. All in favor? Indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None. Thank you. We have an addition to the agenda, the item K. And we talked about this at study session. This is need to provide permission to add item K. We need that first. This will be for the Riverwalk parcel agreement with Allegiance Health. There was two sections of dividing that property up properly. Adam, go ahead.
Yes, I'd ask for your forgiveness on this one. I thought I would put it in the agenda for today, and I just noticed that I hadn't. This was on our agenda Friday for the agreement with Allegiance, so we've been working on this for the better part of a year and hope to move it forward. So Apologize for not getting on the agenda. And,
And it's the same one we looked at on Friday, in other words?
that's right, it's
Okay.
the exact same documents.
Support.
Is that your support, Carl? Yes. Barry will hear it. Okay, we have a motion and support to move this to the full board for discussion and decision. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? None. Thank you. Move on to other business. Need a motion to pay the claims, please? Have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Moving on to other minutes, there are none. To approve or discuss next month's meeting schedule. Let me get it pulled up here. We have Finance, JTA, and the County Building Authority. We return to public comment. Any public comment? Okay, move on to item 7, committee member comment. Okay, we have none. Meeting adjourned.